everyone. Welcome to the March 18, 2021 Cumberland County Commissioners Virtual Workshop Meeting. If you'll please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance by saying, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. and at this time I open up the floor to public comments. Hearing none and seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 3. I'll call on Jillian Yoder to discuss the Housing and Redevelopment Authority 2020 Emergency Solutions Grant Addendum. Jillian?
Yes, good morning. Thank you. As you may recall, just last month, I presented that DCD offered Cumberland County an additional $13,800 to add to our current ESG 2020 agreement for emergency shelter services providing case management at St. Harbor. After the paperwork was submitted to DCD showing their approval, they informed me the amount that they were offering us to have slightly increased by about $15,000 instead of the $13,800. And it requires a new resolution to be signed showing the exact amount authorizing submission to DCD. So if you approve, the funds would be added to our current ESG 2020 contract with them as an addendum, and I'm requesting action at Monday's meeting to facilitate the necessary paperwork, being only that resolution authorizing submission to DCD. So at this time, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Jillian? All right, thank you, Jillian.
Thank you.
All right, next we have agenda item number 4, which is a letter of support for 3P Ride's Truist Foundation grant application. 3P Ride has a proposed project for which they've sought grant funds. Their project will build a transportation network along the I-81 corridor to provide access to existing employment opportunities along the corridor. The proposed wording of the letter is in your packet. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Okay, we'll move on then to agenda item number 5, and I'll call on Tammy Bender to discuss resolution 2021-12 regarding a budget adjustment. Tammy?
Good morning, Commissioners. Finance is requesting approval of one budget resolution. It's for the Office of Aging. They're increasing revenues by $852,473, and expenses are increasing by $549,556. This budget resolution corrects losses to match the revised state budget for 2020-2021 fiscal year. Are there any questions?
No. All right, thank you, Tammy. Agenda item number 6 is contracts and grants, with agenda item number 6, Roman numeral 1A through D, consisting of existing contracts, contract extensions, or addenda with no additional cost or increase to the county for aging and community services, the Commissioner's Office, District Attorney Victim Services, drug and alcohol, and planning. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding any of the agreements?
I do not.
I have a question on item E. Silver Spring Township addendum that says end date changed. What does that mean? End date of what? You can let me know.
Yeah, that actually, I don't think that should say addendum. That's actually new, and it looks like it's a project for them to update their zoning ordinances. I apologize. We'll correct that for the agenda on Monday.
That's what I thought it was. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So it's always good to have commissioners in to know about all of these contracts that are coming through from your various liaison assignments. So hearing no additional questions, we'll move on then to agenda item number 6, Roman numeral 2, which consists of new contracts, vendors, services, grants, and contracts with increases or decreases to the county. And I'll start by calling on Christine Bowden to discuss aging and community services contracts. Christine?
Good morning, Commissioners. I have 2 contracts. The Franklin County AAA contract is an addendum to to pass through contract for the APRC to increase their funds for the money that they're allotted for the CARES Act for special projects. The B&A contract is the last of our senior center contracts that we're requesting an addendum for as well for the, for COVID migration and capital projects that the state has allowed additional money for them.
Any questions for Christine? Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Jonathan Mays is with us to discuss the district attorney's CID grant for local law enforcement. Jonathan?
Good morning, Commissioners. Today I would like to seek your approval to apply for a grant from the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. This is a grant that we first received last year, and the one we're currently under expires in July of 2021. This would take us July of 21 to July 22. It funds a detective's position and partial salaries for a district attorney or assistant district attorney and benefits. The grant is for us to investigate and enforce investigations on illegal gaming devices. The grant that we're applying for is asking for $149,000. I'd be able to take any questions you might have on that.
Any questions for Jonathan? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Kurt Stoner will discuss the liquid fuels finance contract. Kurt? He's not on. He's not on yet? Okay. We'll move on if that's okay with everyone, and we'll come back. Maybe send him an email.
And I did indeed have to leave planning.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on then to Roman numeral 2, agenda item D, and Claudia Garner will be discussing the contract for public safety. Good morning, Claudia.
Morning, everyone. We have before you a contract with Eaton Corporation. This is the preventative maintenance agreement for the UPS, the uninterrupted power supply and flywheel here at the Public Safety Building. The contract includes corrective maintenance, coverage, UPS, preventative maintenance, flywheel maintenance, power protection, reports, and 24/7 technical support with an 8-hour response time. It was previously with PowerWare, and that agency split ways, and Eaton has become its own agency now, and their certified techs are specific for the equipment that we have here. The contract is a 3-year agreement starting March of 2021 and ending in March of 2024. We're going to take advantage of a 3-year upfront payment, and that will result in a 10% savings of $4,600. And compared to the previous 3-year agreement, it's a net decrease of $3,384. And that is all 911 uniform fund eligible. Any questions on that? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Claudia.
Kirk's on now.
Oh, perfect. Okay, we'll move back then to Roman numeral 2, agenda item C. I'm calling Kurt Stoner to discuss liquid fuels finance contract. Kurt?
Sorry, Commissioners, just finished up the planning commission meeting and kind of forgot about this, so I understand.
Nice to see where we were.
So this is a change order for the Ramp Bridge project. This is our only remaining covered bridge in Hopewell Township. The increase of $25,291 for some additional improvements. This is the third change order on this. You've probably seen that the issues we're facing is, this bridge is very old. We're pulling off the siding of the bridge to actually see how the structure looks, and there's additional repairs that need to be made every time we pull some of that off. So we're trying to get a handle on it, but we do want to do a good job on this. This is our last covered bridge in the county. We want to make sure that it's done right. So this change order would be for, again, $25,291.
Any questions for Kurt? All right, thank you, Kurt. That concludes contracts and grants, and next I'll call on Commissioner Eichenberger to discuss agenda item number 7. Commissioner Eichenberger?
Okay, item 7 is the designation of permanent secondary bidders. I don't think this is a surprise to anybody. This is the next step in a process that we've had underway for several months now in vetting bidders for the transfer of ownership and operations of Claremont Nursing Home, Claremont Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. And let's see here. What we would do is this would be the next step in terms of allowing our negotiation team to have someone very specific named for us to sit down and begin specific negotiations toward an agreement, sales agreement transfer. It is not, I would like the minister to reflect, it is not a final selection. It does not indicate a done deal on anything. This is simply the next step in terms of engaging a first bidder and having a second bidder on standby. So if we're ready to move on that, I think we'll entertain a motion today. This should be an action item, so let's put this down as an action item. So.
I'll make a motion to designate Transitions Healthcare as primary bidder and Alair Health Services as secondary bidder for purposes of Cumberland County entering into the negotiations phase for purposes of establishing the terms of an agreement for the sale of Claremont Nursing and Rehabilitation Center with the commissioners and staff as designated by our chairman to assist with the negotiations.
That's your motion.
Yeah.
Ready to go second? I second. Additional questions?
I have a series of questions, but I'm gonna start with the one that is most obvious to me. I don't understand why we would designate a primary and a secondary bidder. It seems as if we're negotiating against ourselves by doing this.
No, quite the opposite.
When I was in the M&A world, when we got to the point in transactions where we had a couple of bidders that we liked, that we were interested in, often we would go to them and say, please present us with your first draft contract. And then we could review those first draft contracts, understand their terms and conditions and what they're repping and warranting to us. And then we were in a better position to negotiate a deal that worked for us as a seller.
That may work in that circumstance. In this circumstance, the thinking is that we have two very capable bidders. This is probably going to be a somewhat detailed and perhaps difficult negotiation, so we want to keep both bidders in the mix. The idea of picking a primary is that we will have essentially a preferred bidder we'll enter into negotiations with, and if all goes well, they would likely be the final selection. What this does is it allows us, if those negotiations are unfruitful, then there is the second bidder, who has been very thoroughly vetted at this point, is still in the mix, and we can certainly re-engage with them. It does have the added effect that the first bidder will understand that they have to come to the table and negotiate seriously, and understand that it's in their interest as well as ours to not have a protracted negotiation. It will help us, it will help protect us, and certainly provide us ample opportunity to move in the direction of conclusion, regardless of which bidder it ends up being. And this is not an unusual practice.
So I don't know what the incentive would be for Mr. Secondary Bidder to stay in the game. We are negotiating against ourselves
We are not.
if we do this. That is my position on this.
This
And if we're not willing to go ahead and present this and say to them, you give us your first draft contract, then let's engage counsel and draft a contract to both bidders and give it to them and see what they come back with.
This process has been pretty spelled out, and it's been, this is not an unusual process. We have witnessed in our research that other counties have, through their process, sometimes been unable to conclude a negotiation, and they've had the other interested party in the wings, and in some cases that other party has then become the object of a renewed negotiation that has successfully concluded an agreement that is favorable. Having the second, the added benefit is having a second bidder in the bullpen, essentially, indicates to them that they are very viable, that they are not rejected, and it also provides incentive for the first negotiator, the first bidder, the primary bidder, to negotiate in earnest.
So what I'm hearing you say is you're not interested in either as an alternative to protecting the county's position on this.
We feel this protects our position. This has been run by Jay, who's our consultant, who has experience with this. He agrees that it's a good practice. I talked to the solicitor about it, and he agrees that it's a good practice. I think those are worthwhile opinions.
Okay, I disagree. Those two bidders have not done their due diligence yet. We have no idea what they're coming back with. If we go ahead and say first draft contract, we need it from both of you, and we take a look at it, we control the process.
But we have already
Primary,
engaged them
secondary bidder,
on,
we're gonna lose control of this process with that secondary bidder. And if things go south with the primary, we will have nothing to negotiate when it comes to the
all
secondary.
right, well,
That's my position.
your opinion is noted.
So, then I'll move on to my second point, which is, as you both know, and the public knows, I'm not in favor of this.
Now, yeah.
And after our due diligence and with new information coming forward, I'm not in favor of naming a primary or a secondary. But if the intent is just to get final terms for action at a later meeting, then we probably need to amend your motion to include something that says, to the tune of, on completion of negotiations, the final agreement will be presented at a public hearing for input before a final decision, and vote on that agreement is made by the commissioners.
Well, we can certainly exercise it. I don't think that needs to be part of a motion. I think that's been the intent all along, is that it's going to have to be acted upon in a public meeting. I think the question of whether we need a special meeting can be resolved later. The solicitor, our deputy solicitor, is on the line. I'd like her opinion on that.
I think the question, Mr. Eichelberger, is whether what Commissioner Frosch proposed would occur at a special meeting or a regular meeting. And your question to me is the logistics of that meeting, if that can be determined at a future date and time. Am I understanding your question correctly?
I would like your opinion, if you have, on whether a special meeting is required. But if you don't have that, then certainly on the second point.
My suggestion to amend the motion is not special meeting or not, it's saying we've got to bring the public into this, which will bring me to my third point. You know, the public is incredibly interested in the potential sale of Claremont. And our taxpayers have expressed frustration with what they perceive as haste of process and lack of transparency. Adding this motion at the last minute to this agenda, to a workshop meeting for action, does not add to our case of saying we are transparent, we're putting this out to the public for comment. Clearly, no one is here today. Clearly, no one is expecting action today, and I'm not convinced anyone saw the agenda or saw this item on the agenda. This will continue to be a contentious issue. We should not act on this today if the public, the taxpayers, have not had the right to express their concerns. We should not interfere with that right.
Well, the taxpayers have had
And
about
if
6
the
months
idea
worth of opportunity.
is moving forward and allowing the public to have their say on this, then we need to make sure that they know that these things are
I
going.
think they've had their say. With
There's
multiple
no one
opportunities.
here.
Well,
There's no one
doesn't
here.
that in itself speak volumes? Doesn't
No,
the fact that a
not to me.
full-page ad in the local newspaper generated 9 emails speak volumes?
Well,
I think the
I've
facts
had
are the facts.
50 or so emails. People have come to us via email, via public comment, via written comment. And what happened here today, I'm not okay with, in any way, shape, or form. We could act on this on Monday, we could hold this and act on it when we've made sure that the public knows about it.
Well, if the public didn't see this coming, then frankly, shame on them. So,
That is not my position on the public. I went to another meeting this morning where someone said, hey, you know, we don't really know about this climate action survey. I do not believe that we have done an appropriate job of letting the public know about what's going on at this meeting.
Well, and frankly, one of the reasons that maybe we haven't been able to push out as much information on that is because we have had this obsessive infatuation with spending as much time as possible on an issue that, until a few weeks ago, seemed very evident in resolution to the entire board, after the effort of many people here with many hours, literally hundreds of hours spent on evaluating this. So if they don't know about the climate thing, maybe it's because we're so busy wrapped up in a non-core governmental issue that has vast political overtones that we're incapable of doing our job as an instrument of government. Okay.
Did you, so,
I think we're
did
ready
you
for
read
that.
that? I'm not ready.
Right.
I'm not ready.
You've been
So
doing
I
that
read
for
the New York
opportunity.
Times article, which was the universe saying, selling to a private provider is a pretty damn serious thing. And look at, if you read the article, you'll know that that was an advertisement for not doing this. It's new evidence. The Commonwealth of California, the state of California is suing those private providers. We need to take a good hard look at that.
What article are you
Right now,
referring
we
to?
have a lot.
I don't know what article you're
Well, the
referring to.
email that you sent.
The email I sent was an expose in the New York Times.
Did you read it?
I did, in regards to the failure of the government to have a robust reporting system that was executed reliably and consistently.
And my
And
take
the
on
conclusion
that
was that the
is
ratings
that the
are
failure
worthless.
of the federal government to handle those things and the ability of a private provider to manipulate a survey is a case to not sell this to a private provider. It's a case to keep it in our control, to protect our residents and our taxpayers.
Such as private organizations.
If you are serious about public input in this, then I ask you to add the amendment saying that upon completion of negotiations, if you're gonna do primary and secondary bidder, which on the record I'm telling you, I think that's a bad idea, I think we're negotiating against themselves,
And
that
people
the
with more
final
knowledge than
agreement
us.
will be presented at a public hearing, so that
Well,
public
it's
can have
entirely
their
up
input.
to the presenter of the motion of whether he wants to amend it.
We have told people over and over again, we would be transparent in this, and what is happening here today demonstrates a lack of transparency.
Well, it is not unusual for us to alter, at virtually every meeting, this agenda is altered. The decision
Not on
was
something
that
like this, not on such a
On
contentious
anything.
hot button issue.
on
On
any.
on
And
an
there's certainly
action item on a
opportunity.
budget resolution.
This was provided
sure.
yesterday. I ensured that all members and all staff involved were aware that this was being added. You certainly had plenty of time to get on your Twitter or whatever it is and let all your friends know.
I
And
did,
yes, we have
because
known.
I made my point. No one knows about it. No
Well, then
one
maybe that you pay
knows.
attention, okay? So,
No one knows. It was not put out there for the public.
do you want
It
to
is
change your motion or
contentious.
not?
Now, I have questions though for our solicitor, if I may ask. This motion was approved by our solicitor. I'm okay with it. But Jen, the question is, this motion approves the initiation of negotiations. And if we reach a satisfactory conclusion of the negotiations, there will need to be a vote by the Board of Commissioners at some point in the future. I'm guessing May, June of this year. That will be, of course, a public meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Will it be a public meeting like this one where no one knows what's happening? Or will we actually make sure that the public knows what is happening?
Well, there's some onus on the public to stay informed as well.
There's an
It's a
onus on
two-way.
us to allow the public to give their input before a vote. There's an onus on us to do that.
The opportunity is here today. The opportunity has been here at every public meeting. The opportunity remains at all future public meetings.
Yeah,
The open meetings law clearly tells us that the public has the right to comment on issues and that what we must provide a reasonable opportunity for residents or taxpayers to comment on an issue before a decision takes place.
I think we have a judgment on the letter of the law. We can each interpret the intent of the board
Well,
separately for whatever
The
purposes
solicitor
they
that
have.
apparently made that judgment isn't here. So I don't know if Solicitor Hip is up to speed on whatever the conversation was with Mr. Brennan.
I think that's an irrelevancy. We seek legal advice from our attorneys. We have been told that there's no barrier to this. So
have
we are now
proven
spinning our
you're proving
wheels
the public's
on
point.
irrelevancies. We are spinning our wheels on
Proving their
irrelevancies for the
point.
purpose of obstructionism.
You're proving their point. We said all along we would be transparent in
And
doing
we have, we
this.
put so much
This is
information
not
out,
transparent.
and the only input we get is from people who don't care about the information we provide. Their minds are
Maybe
made
they
up.
do care, they just disagree. People are allowed to disagree.
Absolutely, they're allowed to disagree, and we have heard all of that. But they don't expect me to be moved by people for whom their minds are impervious to facts, and who think that everything we put out is just a lie, and their minds are made up. Their opinions of people who aren't open to a discussion don't interest me.
So you
So
just put
I'm-
that on the record.
I have stated that people have a right to, don't do what all your friends do and butcher what people say and then put it up on social media,
Who are
okay?
my friends?
You're-
Holy cow. Holy cow, did you just
Yeah,
walk in?
your group that's been
Who is
all
my
over
group?
social media on
Who
this.
is my
The
group?
people who are telling you that they're gonna run you out of office.
Do you
You
really
know
think
exactly.
I'm here for that? Because I'm gonna tell you something right now.
Yeah, I do. I
This
think this has
particular
become nothing other than
process has led
politics.
me to believe that this may not be the best place for me anyway, to effectuate any kind of decent change in
Well, you
anything.
clearly are running for another office. I think that's
I-
what this is all about.
Oh my
So
goodness,
this
I'm
is-
clearly not doing anything but trying to protect the people of Cumberland County, the taxpayers of Cumberland County, and get a good deal out of this. Because
Right.
quite frankly, I'm well aware I can't stop it, but I think primary and secondary bidder is screwing us in contract negotiation.
Well, you're
I
right.
don't care who told you that's a
That's
good
fine.
idea, I think it's a bad idea. And if you are committed to public input, then you will amend the motion, Commissioner Eichelberger, to add what I've asked.
He made the motion. It's up to him if he wants to amend the motion to call for, what is it? What's the latest iteration of the latest
What I'm
demand?
saying is that upon completion of negotiations, the final agreement will be presented at a public hearing for input before a public decision, and a vote on that agreement is made by the commissioners. That's it. You're already saying you're gonna do it, so why not just put it in the motion?
Yeah, we're going to do it, we have to do that regardless, so I don't see the need to put it in a motion. Jen, you were gonna say something, I
Yes,
think, you may have talked to Keith about this. Were you gonna say something?
I can, and I did talk to Keith about this matter being on today's agenda, and there may be a policy or opinion difference on whether action should be taken on the motion at today's meeting, but adding it to the agenda, there is not a concern from a legal standpoint with this item being added to today's agenda and action being taken this morning. So I share that opinion with Keith on whether, the appropriateness of it being on the agenda from a legal standpoint. I understand there's some differences of opinion as to, perhaps policy, or just simply a difference of opinion as to, whether action's taken today, and that's something that's, I would defer to the commissioners to resolve that opinion.
Yeah, one other thing, if you read our website, it clearly states what the next steps are. And,
I am familiar with the website.
yeah, I didn't mean that to you directly, but I mean people in general. They
No
know
one knew this
that,
was happening, Commissioner DiFilippo.
When?
I went and read it too. I did. I went and read it also,
Can
and
I
I have
please,
tried. Go ahead, sir.
thank you. The website, if you read it, clearly indicates that we've done this, we've done that, we just toured the facilities. Agreement, I believe it says settled, finalized sometime in June, okay? This is just a step in that process. And if and when we do come to a satisfactory negotiation with one of these bidders, that decision will be made at a public hearing. It has, or public meeting, it has to. So if people who want to again present their opinions, they're gonna have 2 to 3 months now, to understand that the next step will likely occur in May or June of this year. That is plenty of time for people to come and again express their opinion. The motion today is to do what we said we would do all along, is the next step in the process. So I feel no reason to amend the motion because we will to, again, before we sign anything, bring this up and discuss it at a public meeting. So, Mr. Chairman, I am not going to amend my motion because I feel no need to do so.
Okay. And I'll reiterate, yes, the opportunity for public opinion has been presented in the past, it exists today, it will exist in the future. People are certainly entitled within their rights. If there's a difference of perspective here, I think it largely centers around what is public input, and apparently there's a very active faction out there that views the Board of Commissioners as some kind of pinata, that if they just whack us with a stick enough, that we will shower them with goodies. And that's not the way this works. They're certainly free to express their opinion. We've heard it. We've heard from the same people 8 and 10 times. And I guess we'll hear it again, and that's fine. But it shouldn't derail us from doing what's in the best interest of all stakeholders here, with the possible exception of the union. But anyhow, we're going to call a motion. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed.
Nay.
Let the record show. Majority carries. In favor of the motion, 1 dissenting. Thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 8 is Commissioners' Liaison Reports, and I'll start by calling on Commissioner Eichelberger.
Okay, just briefly have, MHIDB is later today. Planning on attending that virtually, assuming the technology works this time. Also, Jen, you're still there, right?
Yes, I'm here.
I need your help on a little something. We had the recycling meeting last week, and Justin pointed out not only, well, I'll get to the survey, but he mentioned about essentially the legislature's raid on the recycling fund and what the impacts could be for us. Was there any action requested, any advocacy requested of the commissioners for that? Because I didn't catch that if there was.
Commissioner Eichelberger, there was not. I'm highly encouraged, and I certainly don't speak for the Recycling and Waste Authority Board, that they would appreciate advocacy on their behalf, and the county's behalf by the commissioners, but that was not an action item that the authority board took to make that request of the commissioners.
Okay, thank you. I just want to be sure I wasn't missing something. I will follow up with Justin to see if there's a role for us that would be meaningful. But it is worth noting, thanks, Jim. It would be worth noting that Joe did point out to us that some of the specific programs that are being cut are going to affect us deeply. It was a $50 million cut to the recycling fund, and that would involve a number of program line items that we accept, and also grants that we rely on, and also literally half of his salary. So we're going to have some resolution to that. I'll share more as I know more, but I'll double check with him what next steps might be possible. The other item there was that the Recycling Authority is also putting out a survey. We get a lot of surveys going out all at one time. We might want to think about how we do that, but there's going to be a survey going out in terms of the recycling services, people's satisfaction level with them, their interest in other recycling opportunities, their views in regards to the financing of those, including special fees and taxes and such. So we try to periodically assess our constituents' sentiments on issues of recycling. We do so in virtually every recycling event. This would be a little more broad-based and give us a little bit more of a temperature taking on those very specific issues. It's structured through SurveyMonkey. It's very similar to the other ones that we're doing. But I am a little concerned about so many surveys going out at the same time. I'm assuming, I don't know the timeline on this one, but it's clearly late stage, and we've got climate, and what was the other ones doing? Library, yeah. So maybe something for us to address and maybe discuss as well further. Let's see, I mentioned MHIED, recycling. The only other thing, of course, is Kate. We had our board meeting this week. We were both in attendance, so I don't need to go back over those things. The Policy and Planning Committee did meet again last week, hammering out work plans on another one of the major points for the strategic blueprint. We are in discussions now to try to come up with a perhaps more robust oversight mechanism than relying on that large of a committee. So I'm having some conversations with some of the folks on the board in regards, in the executive committee as well, in regards to how we might address that, but we really need to push this thing along. It's been in development formulation for a long time, and parts of it are being implemented. I don't want to leave everybody with the impression that it's not being acted on, but we've tried really hard and spent significant money to make this a good process, and we want to make sure that we're getting our money's worth by ensuring there's adequate supervision and oversight so that we're getting the results that we are hoping for. So I believe that's everything I have.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Eichenberger. Commissioner Fashing.
So I will mention the climate survey that our planning department has up. That survey will be used to develop a climate action plan for the county. The library does indeed have its strategic planning survey available. It's at www.Cumberland County Libraries. The library is also, we have a new mobile app. That might be a nice thing for people to try out, especially if you want to order your books and have them brought to you curbside. And yesterday I took a PennDOT survey about my budget priorities for PennDOT going forward. So when you do the survey, you're given $100 to spend and you plug it into the budget. And so my priorities were alleviating congestion, adding more bikes and walkways, and more of an investment into public transportation. So I think that that would be a useful thing for the people of Cumberland County to go in and take. You could even target an area of the county that you are really concerned about. And I targeted 15 South near Rossmoyne Road, because when it's not COVID time and there are more people on the road, that area backs up tremendously during rush hour. Finally, this morning we had planning board, and it really was a very interesting planning board. But on April 19th, there is a tentative lunch and learn scheduled, and it is going to be about United States Postal Service mailbox standards for new developments. And this would be another thing that no one seems to know is coming, but the United States Postal Service is proposing that in a new development, instead of everyone having their own mailbox, they will have, there will be a community drop-off and a community place to get your mail. So that is really something that we should be aware of and paying attention to. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Fashing. And I did my climate survey. Awesome. I need to do the library one.
Oh, and use the library, of course. Of course.
All right. Commissioner DeFilippo.
Thank you. The Housing and Redevelopment Authority will meet at noon today. Of course, I'll be involved with that. The Ag Preservation Board met last Wednesday. The Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture released their final allocation dollars for conservation easements for 2021. Statewide, there was $38 million allocated. Cumberland County received in grants and matches $2.2 million. Senate Bill 64 was passed. It was passed with strong bipartisan support. In a nutshell, what this will do is allocate 10% of future state grant money funding for conservation easements to land trusts and nonprofit land conservation organizations for expenses incurred in acquiring and transferring agricultural conservation easements to the state or a county. And finally, a rural enterprise request was approved for Amy Brickner. She's planning to open a dairy store at the Preserve Farm owned by Ronald and Deborah Stover, located at 60 Corners Road, which is just east of the Sheets on Trimble Road heading towards Carlisle. The name of the business will be called Destiny Dairy Bar. The store will sell flavored milk such as raspberry milk, orange sickle, key lime, ice cream, yogurt, and cheeses from local herds, that have the A2 gene. Now, you may ask, what is the A2 gene? Research has shown that cows that have this gene produce milk that is more easily digested. It's not a genetically modified cow. This is the gene that cows had before they were domesticated. And some of them still have that gene today, some of them do not. A simple DNA test will prove it. But the business will also sell pasture-based beef and pork. And free samples will be available soon. And they said, feel free to stop in. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Lupo. I'm already planning my visit.
I would love to
Sounds
try
great.
it. Orange simple though. Oh,
I would like to report executive sessions were held on March 8, 2021 at 2:15 PM regarding real estate, on March 15, 2021 at 2 PM regarding potential litigation, and on March 17, 2021 at 9:30 AM regarding personnel. Is there any additional business that needs to come before the board today?
I have additional business. I have a statement that is a summary of my comments today that I will be giving to you, Stacy, as the chief clerk, for addition to the minutes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Hearing no additional,
We have somebody on the line, I don't know if you want, there's a Tim Potts on the line.
I don't know if we want to open up the line.
We've already provided public comment in
Okay.
other meetings, our business is concluded as far as I'm concerned.
All right, thank you. So hearing no additional business, we will adjourn.